I am here today with Simon Walker from CloudBridge. Hello, Simon.
Hello, how are you doing?
Well, thank you. Very nice to see you.
And you?
Let's talk a bit about CloudBridge. Which are the superpowers?
I guess when we say what's our superpower, we typically say migrations. But within migrations, there's obviously loads of different facets. Some customers want to modernize. Some customers want to move to microservices, so essentially serverless architectures. So we have to have skills around DevOps and those areas. And obviously monitoring, managing that environment when it's in AWS as well is very different from being in the on-premise infrastructures. So effectively, we do develop all these other superpowers, but if we have to be known for something, it's going to be around migrations.
Can you please talk a bit about the relationship with AWS and how leadership from both parties have interacted, and also add if you have any recommendations?
When we started working with AWS, and this was 6 years ago, we were obviously very immature in terms of our capabilities. So we managed to start working with a partner manager. And then from there, we've obviously grown out capabilities and built out different touch points. And what we've found is really, really important is making sure our senior leadership team have contacts within the AWS senior leadership teams. Customers come to us because we know more than they do about AWS. And in order for us to know that, we have to work very closely with the AWS technical teams on that. And that goes across the board, whether it be the funding teams, the different project management teams within AWS, all the way through to even the billing teams. We're obviously a solution provider for AWS, so we invoice hundreds of customers on a monthly basis, and those bills aren't always 100% accurate. So we have to work with the Amazon teams to make sure that we have those bills right for the customer, to give them the confidence to continue spending within AWS. But making sure that we have those peer-to-peer relationships with our finance teams and AWS finance teams across the project teams and technical teams is critical to that success. We couldn't run our business without AWS, so we need to treat them as a core partner to deliver services to our customers. And I think that's really critical.
That's a good example of cross-functional teams working together. I also wanted to ask you, in terms of your go-to-market, how important is it in your company strategy working with other partners?
We work with various partners, whether it be on our FinOps practice. We work closely with Cloud Health to help with the cost optimization and management of their architecture beyond just telling them around RIs. We actually look at the in-depth underlying architecture and see if modernization is possible to help them be more agile. With security, we work with partners like Fortinet and Spot for security from NetApp. And there's a whole host of others, but we typically do it in such a way where it's got to be strategic, i.e. they've got to be AWS accredited, i.e. they know how the ecosystem works within Amazon. It's got to provide an additional benefit over a native service. We are typically AWS native first, so it's got to have a very defined benefit over what Amazon would provide as standard. And then also when we're working with them, because we're a service provider and a managed service provider for AWS, it's got to be billed in a certain way. And typically everything is monthly invoiced. So customers don't typically want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars up front for a particular service with a particular vendor. They'd rather pay monthly for these services. So we look at the MSP programs that these third-party vendors are providing. But I think it's absolutely critical for success to have vendors and third parties that we work with that kind of complement what we're doing with AWS as well.
Excellent, thank you. If you would have a piece of advice to give for another partner that wants to grow with AWS or accelerate their business with AWS, what would that advice be?
Yeah, it's a really great question, because when we set up CloudBridge just over 6 years ago, we actually worked with other resellers trying to set up an AWS practice. And I think the common misconception when selling AWS is that you can just resell it as a billing offering. And I think a lot of organizations struggled with that initially. What I would suggest is, when we're looking at AWS, it's about building value into that offering, adding your own services, adding your own wrap, working with the power of three, working with other vendors that other organizations need in order to grow and expand within AWS. If you think of an organization that's trying to compete with all of their competitors, and you've got someone with on-premise architecture, which is ultimately not particularly scalable. They don't have access to all the new tools around Gen AI and the global reach that AWS has. You can effectively make that customer more competitive. And we're talking about actually migrating organizations into AWS and then enhancing their business by using AWS. And that's how you effectively add more revenue and more margin for us as a partner, and other partners could do the same. So often we see organizations call it the flywheel, where you do some services to begin with, and then you just add more services in. So when we started, all we really did was financial operation services, so FinOps. So we would help customers get a hold of their spend, understand what they're doing, and then we would effectively help them reduce their costs, whether it be with reserved instances, removing architecture they didn't need, or talk to them about modernization. But now we do the whole migration, consultancy, modernization, we do DevOps. So we do the whole life cycle for our customers. So we're just layering on the additional income that we can make, obviously on the foundation of the AWS platform itself. So in summary, to really work with AWS, you have to really lean in and build lots of services, and not just think of it as we're just going to resell it as a bill and make loads of money out of it, because you won't do it if you do that.
Excellent. Really exciting times ahead. We could talk for hours about this. Thank you so much, Simon, for being today with us.
Of course.
It was a pleasure talking with you again, and hope to see you soon.
Perfect. Thank you very much.